Okay. Today,
Bro,
what I'm going
please, could you mind sending me?
what
Hello.
was that? Yes, I can hear you.
Please, could you mind sending me part of your code? I got kicked. My network disturbed a lot during the end last time. I could not catch up.
Okay. Maybe this is what you're looking for. Let me just share this with you right away because we're going to be using this in our class today. So if you don't have it, please, all of you, make sure you have
All
this
right.
because we are going to go deep into filtering, updating, deleting, which are the things you'll be doing in most cases. Because as data scientists, most of the time what you do with SQL is that you use SQL to access databases and retrieve data. You can retrieve the data and then manipulate it in Python, which is what I do most of the time because you hardly have me writing SQL, trust me. You hardly have me writing SQL. I'm not saying it's good, especially for data analysts, but most of the times what I do with SQL is I use it to get my data and then I come and inside Python, I begin to play with the data the way I want to do with it. But it's good to know the SQL. It's good because you would understand how databases function. You would understand how data pipelines function because you can also get a job as a data engineer, of course, which is something I've done. And you find yourself developing pipelines. And it's good to understand how databases work with these things as far as relations are concerned. So that's why we're doing this. So you have to have these because this is what we're going to be using as a foundation for the work we're doing today. Is everyone up to speed? Dr. Tony?
Probably,
Yeah, Prof,
please,
good evening.
probably a little bit.
Prof, good evening.
Hey, best man, good evening.
Yes, please. Can you share?
Doc, is this?
Good evening, Tony. Can you please share your code so far? I'll try and see if I can follow today, but I don't want to type all these things. I'm going to use from my Python terminal. But if you can share the script to help.
Let me just take it from here and throw it in the chat so that everyone should follow, please. Just pick it from here and paste it on whatever you have.
Thank you.
Yes. Doc, is this what you were looking for, Dr. Angelo? I've shared this in the chat, so I think it should also take you to speed, right? Starting from where we added data, right? Some data
Yes. Where we have to alter.
Run it accordingly.
All right, thank you, Prof.
Is it from where we created a database or where we're adding? Because
you can just create a
database
and add the data. For best man, you just I don't know which one to give you now because we already have
the one you're using at the moment.
Table student. Okay, use this one. You have to create a database and then use this one. This is where you're creating the table. This is for best man. Don't go around again if you already have the table. Best man, this is where you create the table and you can create the database, but you have to run this. Before you do that, you have to run this first, best man. You have to create the database first. Where is the create database code?
Please just add the create database.
Database code. Let's use the one. I'm looking for it. There's this one we call create database university. Create database university, and then so you have to run these two first. You run this first. After you run this is the first. You first of all run this code that I've said now. After you run this, you then create database table. Sorry, you first of all have to create a database and then use database. Now after running use database, you run create tables student blah 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 blah, and then after that, before you add the data, that's the trend. If you don't go like that, you have an error because you have to create a database.
As the order of
things. Create a table. After creating the table, you add data. Yeah, you add data to the table.
Update the
Otherwise,
table
you have an error. Data. Yes. And make sure when you're creating the table, you first of all have to create this. You have to run this one first, the course table, before you run this one. Because remember, when we were creating the student table, we were populating the course ID column in the student table from the course table. So if you don't create the course table first, you run this one, you have an error. So that was we
Okay.
did this in class yesterday. So for those that are copy pasting,
Stable.
make sure you run this first before you run these, because if you run the first one without the second one, you will get a failure because we reference this. See, here we were saying that the course ID column is a foreign key, and we were referencing the course ID column in the course table. So if you do this one before the second one, you're going to have an error. If we are all on the same page now, I think it's good that we proceed with. So what we are just going to focus now on is we're just going to explore different options, okay? Different commands. Different commands.
Prof, yeah, I'm still having that error. Even
Which
though
error is that?
Author insert into student with unknown column course ID, even though I have run the other one down first.
Definitely sure. Great. You can quickly share your screen. Let's just fix that.
All right, thank you.
So that if there's any other person going through the same thing, they can quickly fix. Please, if you are not up to date with where we are, you have to update yourself while we are trying to troubleshoot this so that you can be up to speed. There's no way you can only be looking at this. It's better that you're looking and also running. Dr. Tony, you're quiet. Is everything okay, Dr. Tony? Doc, please.
Everything is not okay. Can you hear me, Prof?
Yes. What is wrong, Dr. Tony?
My student something. I don't know what I did. So the thing now disorganized. So I've dropped the table. So I'm now trying to use this one now that you this create table. Yeah, that you share. So I'm trying to create a new table, then put the data inside. But my question is, course ID is in students. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
So what's the data type of that's under the student table? What's the data type of course ID?
It's an integer. This is it.
Okay, because it's not in the grade table student that you share.
If you see, please, if it's not there, please, can you just look at execution number 95 on Dr. Angelo's screen. You see that the course ID, add course ID int is an integer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. Angelo, please, can we have your screen back? I'm sure he has been kicked out by network. Who else is not up to speed? We need to bring everyone up to speed just in the next 10 minutes, please, so that we can start. We need to end SQL today because we need to start Power BI in our next class. And we'll start Power BI with data modeling because that is the one I like, so that we can just relate with what we've been learning from here. We have to build a data model. Maybe we'll choose a star schema.
What about Excel, Prof? I thought that we were going to Excel
That
before
would
Power BI.
No, I prefer to do Power BI before Excel because I don't want you people to forget the concept of foreign keys, primary keys, and all of that when we are doing modeling in Power BI. Excel will be the last module. All these modules are not long, right? Because they are pretty easy. Okay, Dr. Angelo, can you please scroll down? Let's see the error message you're having, and then we troubleshoot. And if you're having the same message, please follow along and then solve your problem as we see. So I can see that you have a code that says column course ID doesn't exist in table. Okay, they say insert into students. So you're trying to add the data into student course ID, and they say the course ID column doesn't exist. So can you go up to where you have created alter table students, add course ID? So let me see course ID and Dr. Angelo, can you please run execution number 95?
95?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
After running that, can you now run, can you now add the data? Start with the course. Please calm down. You make sure you've run this one down here first. Yes, run that one first. It says course ID, course name value, mathematics error could duplicate entry for course ID. So it already exists. So you had already added it. Can you now go up and run line 110? Now, can you now come down and can you use the select command, come down, add a new line. Let's start with the course table. Select star from start with course table, course. I think it's course, yes. Run that, please. Okay, we have all that we needed there. Can you just copy the same code and put it down, and this time around, instead of course, you run student? Student. Thank you. Run that. Perfect.
All right. Thank you.
That's great. Is everyone up to speed? Are we all here? Dr. Angelo, you can stop sharing. Dr. Tony, has your own problem been resolved?
My stuff. I'm trying to update my
table, your inserting the
database.
data.
So I've created a table. So the order of things will be after table called student.
After creating the table, you first of all
called students. I have to alter
you have to
it.
also add. Do you have the code to add the course table? Because you have to add the course table before you add the data to it. So, Bestman, can you quickly share your screen? I know some other people are also lagging behind. Dr. Toddy, can you please just copy from what we're doing from Bestman and run along so that we all are on the same page? Bestman, please quickly share your screen. Let's go with you so that the others can catch up immediately. I know there are some people who are lagging behind. The reason why I'm doing this not yet is because it's good to be practical when we are doing this. I think it's coming. Okay, perfect. So I see that course ID is not there. So can you please add the course column? Madam Vandolin, if you are not up to date, can you please copy the data in the chart and then follow the what we are doing with Bestman? Bestman, let me see.
There is course.
You do not.
I created a table.
Copy execution 4 to execution number 8. Yes, copy that.
Okay.
Can you just put your cursor on? No, copy because I just want to replicate it. I don't want to type. Undo. Yeah, just put your cursor after execution number 8 and run and hit enter to create some empty spaces. Yeah, just add more. Maybe you can add more so that we can. Yeah. Okay, now go back to line number 9 and paste what you copied.
Okay.
Yeah. So instead of create student, can you now call it course? Change that student to course. Yes. Madam Vandolin, I know you're lost, so you can now follow the same thing. So student ID, instead of student ID, have course ID there.
Course ID.
Yes.
Okay.
And instead of name, can you have how do we call it? Did you call it course name or name? Let me look at it.
Course name.
Course name, yes. So instead of name, can you have it as course name?
Okay.
And then
there's no H.
There's no H. Remove the H variable. Yeah, remove that comma and then take out the okay, perfect. So you can run that line. Perfect. Now you can delete all the empty lines. Yeah, you can delete all the empty lines down now just so you have a clean workspace.
What about the insert? I should delete some other ones. Okay, student is gone.
No.
Control Z.
Why you created the student table? I wanted you to add the data.
I wanted to alter the student table.
Yeah, you had to alter the student table. It's important to alter it because I think we altered it and added the course ID column to the student table. Okay, I think that is it. Perfect. Now come down and add data to the course table. Go down, insert data to the course table. No, not there.
The alter is not running at the moment.
It says alter column course ID doesn't exist in table. Course ID. Wait, you're altering course ID. Student, you have to create the student table first. So you have to run execution number 17 first, best man. Execution number 17, 17, 17,
17.
17. Yes.
Okay, this one. Okay, it's true.
You have to run that one first. Yes, and then before you run 19. Make sure you put a semicolon at the end of 19 before you run it. Yes, that works now. Okay, now that you're there, can you now go down and add the data to the cost table? Right down. That should be the second code down. Down, 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 down. Okay,
Down,
insert cost. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Run line 33. 33. Perfect. Now, can you copy the line of code that inserts data into the student table, please?
set into course.
No,
Yeah,
this one
that's
inserts
done.
into course. There's another code that I shared in the charts that inserts into student table. There is another code in the charts. Go back to the chart and you'll see the code that inserts into the student table that adds data to the student table. Are you there? When you copy that, just come and add a few lines of, just hit enter after 33, paste it down and run it. It should run. Hit enter after that.
Okay, only one at a time.
Just hit enter so that you paste it and then, yeah, and run it.
I've pasted it.
Okay, and you run it.
Student.
Okay, perfect. You can run select, go down and run select star from course. Let's see if you have the course table and then select star from student. Let's see if you have the student table. Cancel all these ones down. Delete all those ones.
Oh.
Delete from
one?
61 to 67.
61 to
You don't need that. You don't need those again. You already ran those above there, so you don't need them down here again.
Okay,
Yeah, 61 to 67.
relevant.
Yeah. Select star from student.
Yeah.
Run that one. A semicolon at the end before you run, please. That's the syntax. Run. Run is
run two
control
tables at
enter,
the same
not
time.
enter.
Yeah, control enter, yes.
Run is control enter.
I've done that. Is it delayed?
I think that's proof that you have it. Okay, perfect. You can also check if the cost table is also having data. You can select star from cost and then run it again.
Okay.
Select star from cost and run it again.
Yeah, I've done that.
Let's see if the cost table is also filled. Okay.
But I can't see the primary keys. Primary keys doesn't show. Okay. Hello? Hello?
I can hear you, best man. I don't know. I can hear you.
Okay. Maybe Prof has gone off.
I'm sure.
I was going to ask if the primary key. Okay, it will show here. Actually, not give any time.
Is it after you've run the stuff for the primary key to show somewhere this is primary key?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it should.
It will show.
I don't think it should. No, it will not work.
It's not work,
It will not work. I don't think I've not seen this code before. I have not seen the primary key is more like, I think it's more like, you know, when something is set on require, when you are filling a form and set on require, so you cannot leave that this thing empty. It cannot be null. Cannot be null,
okay.
But unique cannot. But to show on the distance will not show. I don't think it should.
Okay. So just.
Oh, now that's my very good since now.
Boy, so many things on my table. I'm telling you.
You're a big man now. More. You
You
just
don't
leave us.
understand.
You just leave
Abi
us.
observe this thing I easily forget it too. So when you practice, you keep forgetting. I don't know.
Sure.
Telling you. I was doing a project as well.
I understand. It's not easy combining work, family, this one with this one again.
Telling
Well,
you. Hope
welcome
I
back.
didn't miss much. Thank you. Hope I didn't miss much.
I mean, I don't think so. And besides, this neighbor, you now Baba for this, I think it's all revision that you are doing.
Exhibition now. As I usually forget it now if you don't use it. I even used it for my project too. But I use
You
it
see?
through a library called
Oh,
SQL Alchemy on the terminal. I didn't code all these things. It just automated it. So well, it's good to see it from how it works on the back end.
yeah.
Constance, good evening. And
Good evening, best man, and welcome back. It's
Madam
really been a
Costa.
Dr. Tony.
Madam, good evening.
Good evening.
this
So happy
this
to
part
hear
is
from
not
all of us this evening.
Same here.
Best man, you can stop sharing and let's
all right. Okay.
Prof,
let's
should you know
start.
hear our gossip, huh?
Pardon.
I hope you did not hear our small gossip.
We're chit-chatting. Okay. Let's so now that we are all
I'm not up to date.
what's the problem, Madame Vandolin? Pardon?
Thank you, Prof.
Me too, I'm not up to date.
Madame Vandolin, what is the challenge do you have?
I've run the code, it's not going.
Can you please quickly share your screen? Please, we have the next 5 minutes to finish this, okay? Otherwise, we'll not finish what we have installed for today. Oh, let me see. Madam Vandolin, we're waiting for you to share your screen, please. Okay. Can I see your error message, please? Can you just maximize it and scroll down? Let me see your error message. I still can't see. Can you scroll up? Can you move your screen up, please? Hit the maximize button on your screen, the top square right at the top there. Can you please maximize it so that I can see your screen? Okay. I cannot see the error message down here. There is an error message that's error number 26. I can't read it because I'm seeing your screen very small. Yes, can you please hit that button? Thank you. Yes, I still, oh, for some reason I still cannot see it because.
You can scroll up, okay, yeah.
Can you scroll down from this? There's another bar down here. There's another bar down. Okay, now I can see it. It says, cannot add or update.
Oops.
It says cannot add or update row, a foreign key from. Madam Vandolin, can you please just go up to your console and let me show you what to do? Yes. No, scroll down. I want to see the code down, please. Down, 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 not up. You are going up, but I want to come down. Just hold that thing and drag it down. Yes, drag it down. Good. Can you run that execution 113 first before running the one above?
Sorry.
Run that execution 113 where you are standing. 113. No, you don't have to highlight it. Just put your cursor in front of 113 at the end of line 113 and do Control Enter. Madam Vandolin, put your cursor in front of line 113 at the end of line 113 and then hit Control Enter. 113, yes. Put your cursor at the end of line 113 and hit Enter. Control Enter. Madam Vandolin, put your cursor. Okay, I see you have a duplicate warning that says 10 duplicate 0 warning. Blah. So that is correct. Go up and run put your cursor in front of line 101 and hit Control Enter. Perfect. Now come down to line 114. Type select star from student. I prefer you do that in uppercase, please, for the sake of peace. And practice using spaces.
Sorry.
Type select star from student, and I would like that you run that in uppercase. And please use space to separate your words.
Select staff from
Student. That means you are selecting all the data from the student table. Can you put a semicolon at the end of that and hit Control Enter, please? Yes. That is because, can you go back and write that select in uppercase? Maybe the student did not even have an S. I don't know that. And then the from, also in uppercase, please. From in uppercase. Can you go up and let me see if your student had an S, because he might not have had an S. Go up. Student did not have an S, so can you please go down and remove that S? Yes, can you run that now? Perfect, you have the student table. Can you also check if you have the course table by just highlighting that and pasting down on the next line? And then changing student to course.
I don't get that.
Copy line 114 and paste it on line 115 and change student to course.
I should copy.
Madam
My network is
Bandolin,
shaky.
select star from course. Course. Semicolon at the end. Check that. Run that. Perfect. You have all the two tables with data. The next person was Madam Prudence. Madam Prudence, Madam Constance, I think, Madam Vandolin, I think you're fine. Can you stop sharing? Let's see what Madam Prudence has. Madam Prudence, can you quickly share your screen, please, so that we can see why you are not up to date? Let me see. So I see you do not have data inserted into those tables. Okay, please. Can you please just hold your cursor up and run it down? Hold that small button there. Yeah, drag it down. Okay. I want you to run line 112. 112. 22, sorry. 22, not 12. I'm seeing 22. 122. 122. Yes, please. Can you execute that line? Can I see the error message? Hit the hide button on that small thing on your screen. Hit that hide. It's blocking my view.
Okay.
Thank you. It says course ID field list, unknown column course ID in field list. Okay. Can you please scroll up? Can you please hit execution number 95? It says alter table student ins duplicate column course ID. Okay. Course ID. You have course ID. Okay. Students. Can you please scroll down? Scroll down, please. it says course ID, name, age, course name. Scroll up to where you created the course table. I want to see how you spell the course ID. There might be a difference there. The course table, please go up. Go up.
Okay.
You see on, yeah, that's it. There you do not have an ID, please. You see there you don't have an ID, you just have course. There's no ID on line number 88. You notice you've just written course without an ID. That's why you're having an error. And it's fine. There's no need to update it again, because if you put it now, you're going to have two columns there, one saying course and another one saying ID. You might either want to update it to ID and drop the course column, or you just come down now and change it to course. But you have to remember that your own does not have ID. So can you please go down? Anytime you're referring to the course ID column, remember your own does not have the ID word. So can you go down and change it down there, because you don't have the word ID in your...
At line
Go down.
95, should I write just course? Add course.
No, that is correct there. Can you please go down again? Go down again. Go down again where you're inserting data. So where you have course ID here, your own doesn't have ID. So you have to remove that ID. Yes. Yes, can you now go down and run the line 122? It still says unknown name field name. So we are adding data to a field that doesn't exist. Go back to what you have there. Wait, you're inserting into course. You do not have age in course. So how did you get that? Course name. You're supposed to just have course name. Can you remove age and name? Remove name completely, please. Yeah. Can you run that again? Because I think we just had two columns in course. Run that again. Let me see. That is fine now. Now go up to the student table to add data to the student table, please. In the students table, hold on there. You are not inserting onto, you are inserting into. It's not onto, it's into. Thank you. Uppercase, please. Okay. Let me perfect student ID, name, age, course ID. Yes, here is course ID because we called it course ID. Can you scroll down a bit? Run line 111. 111. 111. 111. Can you execute line 111? Madam Prudence, can you hear me? Yes. It says code duplicate
I've done
entry
so,
for
sir.
key student primary key.
111. Yes, I've done it. I'll put those student add course.
Please, can you come down and run select star from students? Let me see what is going on there. Yeah. You already have that. Run the next one. Perfect. We are all on the same page now. All of you, you have data now, so you should be able to filter it, right? Stop sharing now, we're good.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Let's quickly look at some functions, please. Okay, let's see how we can filter, right? So let's see how we can filter. And for some reason, let's see how we can filter. And the reason why we're filtering is because most at times when you go to a database, you are not pulling all the data from there. You might want to pull data that meets certain criteria, right? So when we run select star from students, I can just quickly run that here. Through enter. Ooh, what is that saying? Select star from student. It says no database, select default database. Oh, now he wants me to run this thing again, bro. Why are you giving me stress now? Blah, 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 blah. Wait, which database am I using? University? Use university. Thank you. Okay. So when you notice what we have here, what we're saying is that when you come to this database, assuming that this is your database, right? There can be a lot of data there, like many, many, many things. And for some reason, you don't want to get all. For example, we just want to get the records where the age is greater than 18 years, for example. Those are the people we want to look for. So how do you do that? That's called filtering. How do you filter out that data? So please, you have to type with me, okay? So we want the names of the students whose age is greater than what? Greater than 18. So how do we do that? So maybe I just have to write a comment here. Select the name of students whose age is greater than, let me write it, greater than 18 years. 18 years. So that's what we want to do. So what we have to do now is that I'm going to say select, I like, for some reason, SQL likes uppercase. What do we have? Do we have student name or name? We have name. So you can see from my here, I have name, not student name. So I have select name. Maybe we just want just the name. You can also want the age. You've just added that from now, it's telling you this table where you're selecting from, right? Maybe I don't need a comma here because I'm just writing. But if I wanted, let me just say, if I wanted the name and the age, I would have put name age, okay? But I don't want the name and the age, so I'll just put select name from the database was student. That's the name of the table. So this one is your name of table from student. Now what I'm introducing here is the where command. This is the command that is new. We've seen select, we've seen from, but this is the command I'm introducing, where. So you use this to specify what you're filtering. And so if I'm looking for where age is greater than 18, right? Where age is greater than 18, you can run this. And then let's see this. I don't know if I'm supposed to include the age column since I'm referring to the age column, but it should work without that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this. You see, these are the names of the students whose age is greater than 18. And just to prove to you that this is true, we can also add their ages, of course, right? We can also add their ages to be sure that the comma and I add their age. And I'm going to add their age to this. And then I'm going to run this again. You see now, do we have all the ages greater than 18? Correct. So can we also get less than 18? Of course, yes, you can get less than 18. Why not? I don't know why there was an indentation here, but for some reason, I don't know. Can we also get less than 18? Yes, and just to be sure that we do not get the wrong thing, we can also get less than 18. And when we run this, you see, oh, there was nothing less than 18. Is that for real? So let me run this. So there was none that was less than 18. Okay, let's do less than 20. Since everyone is saying that we are all greater than 18, so let's do 20. Okay. Now we get less than. Yeah. So we say only 19. Okay, Tom Clark was actually less than 18, and we took less than 18, strictly less than. And so if we wanted to have that one who's 18. And so we can also can say, because you might want to filter this based on something, right? You might, instead of saying less than, you just can say equals to 18, right? And there's a possibility that you're just looking for one records that meet a specific criteria, of course. You see, I have just Tom Clark. So it's up you because if you're filtering data from a database, you might be filtering the database on any condition. I mean, you can filter based on anything. We are just taking an example, age. You want the record where the age is less than, the age is equal to. And again, I want you to appreciate the utility of equality here, because in Python, we would have written double equal to here. In Python, this would have been like this, but here it is not like that. So I would like that we appreciate the fact that it's different syntactically, right? The syntax is different. And so we use one equality, but this actually, this evaluates for equality, of course, that's true, but it's not an assignment operator. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Are we all here?
Yes, Prof.
So the most important concept here is the where command, because again, here we are just looking at commands, okay? We are just looking at different commands that will do different things for us. So maybe I should be highlighting that so that for the sake of reference, in case I might want to share my notebook with you at the end of the day, you should be able to know where. So this one is sorry, I'm not used to using uppercase on my computer because I'm used to the shift key. So most of the times when I have to put the cap lock on, and then it now gives me trouble. So what does this do? You use for filtering data based on a specific what condition, right? It's a condition. So when you say where age is greater than 18, that's a condition. So you say where, whatever it is, and you're gonna see us using this more often, and it actually is a good thing. Okay, the next command that we might like to look at is what we call the update command. You remember, if I let me put my cap lock up. I'm looking for the update command, and this is definitely used to modify existing data. Used to modify existing data, right? So we might existing data. So what can we do here? Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Let me use this data here, and here. I want to modify. Okay, Tom Clark. We can see that Tom Clark's age is 18. So I want to modify this and say, okay, it's not correct. It should be maybe 15, for example, right? That's a possibility, of course. So how can we do that? That's what I mean by updating. And so if you want to do that, we're going to use the update function, okay? And that's the update command. Update. This should be capital. Update students. So when you're updating, we are updating the students, the name of the table, right? You always have to reference your table because you can have multiple tables. So now when you do update, there are two commands here, and then there is the other command which I'm going to also indicate, which is set, right? Set. So you're updating. Update will alter. And let me just put on my stylo here. If I were to do this in Python, I always like to do that analogy because it makes comprehension nice. Okay, let's say if I were to do this in Python, what I would have done is I would have done my data frame df of, let's say, let me say I'm looking for the name, and the name was John. So I would have done df of name, right? df of name equal John. So this was Tom. No, here I'm not doing John, I'm doing Tom Clark. So I would have written equal Tom Clark. But maybe just write Tom for the sake of peace, or let me write it up because some people still not understand that I was doing this for the sake of peace. equal Tom. So I'm doing ZF of name equal Tom. And then if I filtered, if I mask this, it would have returned this as a database, and then I can equate this to ZF of this equals to Tom equal. You might want to add that. You might want to set this or ZF of h equals Tom, and then you subset the h. You mask this and then you subset the h. You subset the h because this will return a data frame, right? You can subset the h column, and then you equate that to maybe 15. You update it to 15. This is what you would have done in Python. When you do this, this will return a data frame, and then you inside that data frame now you return the h column, and then you equate it to 15. This is what you would have done in Python. But then how do we do it in SQL? Let me clear all the drawings. Excuse. So now the reason why I'm using the set command, the reason why I used the set command was because the set functions like this equality, right? It functions like what you're saying is that you set, even in English, you're saying make the h to be, right? So we have, two things here to note. Update indicated that you're making a change. Update points to the fact that you're making a change, right? And you don't have to confuse this with alter. Alter affects the column. Update affects the values. So don't mix that up. When we're doing alter above, we were changing the data, the columns, the variables themselves. For example, name. You might want to alter name to maybe change the data type to something else. But when you want to change a value, you have to use update. So there are two different things. So don't get that twisted, because you might get confused at that level and say, oh, why am I not using alter? Why are we using? Again, when you're changing values, you use update. When you want to affect the variable itself, you're using update. So you're using alter, sorry. So now let me minimize this, and then I quickly clear the drawings, and then I come back to and then I said, so what am I changing? I was changing the h variable, right? I'm changing h to be equals to, for example, I want this to be 15, and then now I come back to my where name is equals to Tom Clark, for the sake of peace, so that I do not have a problem with the typing of Tom Clark. I'm just going to copy it from here, since the guys have already spelled it correctly for me. So I'm just, that's the end of my command. I'm going to run this. And, what do I say? It says, you are using safe update mode and you try to update a table without aware that, what do I mean by? Did I spell something wrongly? They say, you are using safe update mode and you try to update a table without a where, but I have where now. Why are you saying? Why are you saying I don't have a way? I have update, yeah. Student, of course, that's the table name. Set age equals 15, right? Because that's what we're doing. And then where the name is equals to this, that's the specification. So why do I get the error that says, can I open this? So you're trying to update the mode and try to update table where without the where that uses a key column. Okay, oh yeah. So what it's doing is that we're using, so what was our primary key here? What was our primary key here? On the student, that was the student ID, right? The student ID was the primary key, and this makes a lot of sense, right? So how do we call it? Student ID? Student ID, where student ID is equals to, what was Tom Clark's student ID? Let me run this to get Tom Clark's student ID. Tom Clark's ID was 6. Yeah. where student ID is equals to not, and 6 is not an integer, it's a column. Where student ID is equals to 6, right? Let me run this and see. Perfect, this works. Now, I'm going to explain why we have the error so that we can all learn from it, right? And just for the sake of peace, right? If I run this again, if I run this again, you'll notice that Tom Clark's age should change to 15. You see? Can you see that? His age has changed to 15. Now, why did I get an error before? Let me explain that. Okay, the reason why when I ran this the first time I got that error was because I was trying to reference the H column, the name column, which is not a primary key. And I had specified in this table that the student ID is my primary key. And so it is but just likely that if I want to reference any record on this table, the primary key should be the target. And so the reason I'm saying so is because if I select the primary key 6, it should give me every information about that particular ID, about that particular record. And this is important. This is very, very important. Let me explain why. Let me go back, and I think this is the code that I wrote. Let me just point you back to this code. Please look at something here. Look at this is what I wrote. I was updating H where name is equals to Tom Clark. Can you see that? I've highlighted it down in red. I've put a small square. This is the code. Look at this place like this. This is my code here. If you notice that what I'm doing here is that I'm referencing the name column, and I'm saying that where the name is Tom Clark. And remember, the name column is not a primary key, so it has the possibility of taking duplicates. So there can be more than one Tom Clark in my database. So does it mean I want to change the H for all the Tom Clarks? And so you see why this could not work. Because the name column is not a primary key. And since it's not a primary key, there's a possibility of it accepting duplicates. And if it can accept duplicates, the question now becomes, SQL is now asking you, if this thing can accept duplicates and you're telling me that I should update the H, should I update the H for all of them? So it doesn't work like that, right? And so that's why it says I was using a column that is not a key. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay, so we have updated that. So now let's continue. So that was a good learning there. Let's continue. So we look at update. Let me just set. This way the commands we looked at. Let's just keep looking at more commands, okay? Because that's basically what we do when we are working into this. So okay, we've looked at insert into. We've looked insert into, right? Do I need to teach this again? This one. We use the insert into to add data to our data. I know I didn't show you this before here, but this is what we use to add data. But now what is important here to use the insert into is that what I want to explain here, which is very important, is the fact that this follows this is very important. The order, the positioning of the column names is supposed to be respected by each data that you enter. Let me explain this. Look at this. Course ID is first, and down here is first. The course name is second, and down here is second. You have to respect this. It's not a random thing. Is that okay? That's why even when you look at what we did with the student data, when we're adding data into the student table, what we did was that our student ID was the first input. And here it is the first input. The student name is second, and here is second, separated by commas, right? You see that I've separated by commas. So the positioning is supposed to be respected. It's not random. You cannot just think that I'll swap course name, swap course ID, and then come down here and I put it anyhow. And by magic, SQL is going to know that this is supposed to be H and this is supposed to be ID. Nope. it follows a positional arrangement. Is that clear?
Yes, Prof.
Perfect. So you don't do this by random. So there's no need to go back into the insert into. You just use it to add your data. You specify the name of the table, and then you follow the positional arguments to be able to add the values. It's very important. So if you have 100 columns in your database, you have to follow that specification to be able to add all your data if you're creating that from scratch. Okay, let's continue. We've used the create table. We've used the drop table. I'm just looking at the important because if you look at in our course, I think in the course, we picked the important. We might not explore everything, but there are just very important commands in SQL that we can't do without. Course. Okay, data science course content. Data science course content. What is it? Can I just clear this? We didn't pick all the. We didn't pick. It's not like you want to explore every possible thing on planet Earth. So we've looked at constraints. Have we looked at constraints? Null, unique, yeah, primary key, foreign key, check, default. So let's look at the next one. These are the most important SQL commands. It's just not like you can explore everything, but we're looking at the most important ones that everything you do, you might have them. So if you now come across a particular command that is not included on this list, you might just want to reference it and see the documentation of that command and see what it says. So just to show you that we're picking the most important commands that you find on daily basis. And that's the essence of this training, right? Because it gives you the foundation to be able to build up from there. Okay, let's look at now. I know in Python we didn't really do this. We didn't really do this, but in databases this is important, and I'm going to explain why. Let me explain what I'm talking about. What am I talking about? So let's have there is this concept. I know we looked at it, but we didn't create it because by default data frames do that for us. We have that column that we call the index. We've used it a lot. You remember the index column in data frames? That is always the first column this way with numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if you read in data into a data frame, if you read in a data frame into Python, using pandas, and by default, pandas create an index for you. You have to go back to that lecture to refer to that. It creates an index for you. So if you notice, we were not explicitly creating an index in Python, because if you read your data through this thing, you have an index there. But then we had the possibility to reset the index. Yes. We use the pd.reset reset index, the def.reset index function to be able to reset the index of our data frame when we alter it. And then when we were outputting data, we had the possibility to say index, to include the index in the output data, yes or no. And this is very important because now, why does this thing happen? And I want you to understand, because these things are very intelligent. What is happening is that if you import data into a data, if you import data, by default, there's a high chance that your data might not have had a primary key, of course. And once you notice is that your index is always unique. And if your data does not have a primary key, you can directly use that index in that data frame as your primary key, because that index is definitely unique across all the columns. That means if I import a data frame in Pandas, which has 1 million records, I'll have an index that runs from 1 to 1 million. And there's no repetition in any number. And that can directly serve as a primary key for you. You'll notice this. So once you find that, don't get offended. That is how it is. But then you can also decide to reset the index to a different column. You can decide to use a different column to reset the index. And this happens in a case where, for example, if you're working in a research and you have given your you have given your study participants unique numbers, like unique study numbers. Once you import that data, Pandas is going to automatically put an index there, but you don't want that index column there as your index. You want that unique column, that is your unique identifier for your different participants, to be your index column. So what you do is that you now set the index to that column, and then you drop the other index. All of these things we've done there. You've seen how to do that. You've seen how to set an index to a particular column. You've seen how to drop a column that you do not need. So that is no news. So that's the reason why we are saying that in this, in that when now you are using SQL, because we're using SQL to manage a database, you have to explicitly create your index, right? You have to create an index, and an index just references your rows in your database. And like if you notice, you have these, like let's say the student ID, these are not indices, right? These are not indices. And so you might want to now create an index and work with it. So let's see how that is going to work, how that plays. So let me just put a hash here and say create and pass the create index. So let me say indices are used for faster searching, and because they're unique. And so if you want to create, and let me explain something again. In databases, most of the times, when you create an index, when you are searching for data within a database, when you had indexed that database, it's always very important to just search that
Hello?
Hello, it's like Prof has gone off.
Oh, yeah, I think I never was speaking.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. I'm here too. Can you hear me?
Dr. Angelo, good evening. I don't think
Hello.
I've met you before.
Good evening, Bestman. No, I'm not sure.
Out.
I think he's back. Professor is back, right?
Yes, I think he's back. I can see his device.
Hello, guys.
Is that
Hello.
Bandoli?
Sorry, someone kept calling my phone and I was using my phone for the internet connection, and the only way to stop that person was to answer the call and indicate. Okay, let's get this running. Where we at? Okay, so let's grab that straightforward. So can we create an index in the student data table? So we stay create index. So you create an index and you can give it a name, right? The index name. So I can call it I can call my index name index. It doesn't matter, right? And let me, for the sake of peace, because some people will not understand, let me call it student index, because I don't want people to student index. And then I say I'm specifying my table on student on students. Did I call it student or students? On students. So this should give me this, I think this is a function. There's a function here called index underscore name. I'm just thinking of this one underscore name. Did I get it wrong? I don't know. No. You can just give it a name, student index. Let me try this one, student index, of course. And then I'm going to pass it on students, and then I'm just run this and see. This doesn't give me the expected results. I'm looking for a function. Please give me a minute. Let me look for the function that I'm thinking of.
Are you supposed to make the
Check
alter
my
the table
file. I have a
first?
file here that has. Sorry, I'm just file directly. I think you can go directly. I'm just not sure of one function there that I'm missing out. Give me a minute. Let me look for the function I'm looking for. This one, yeah, I think I and cool. The reason why I was a bit confused is because there is the set index, like you're setting a particular column as an index, and then you're also creating, because let me just say, I can create a column called index from, and then I can create this from, for example, I can do this on the student ID column. I can make this column I can make this column an index. And this is important because I'm just thinking, right? Like I was explaining In Python, you can create an index as well as you can reset it, or you can set a particular column to an index. So I was just trying to, my confusion was around the level where when you're setting an index, and I think this makes sense because if I am creating a database and I say this column is my primary key, and then it just makes sense that that should be your index. You understand what I'm saying? Because in every case, that is the column on which you'll be searching from. For example, in your database, in your school database, the column called matricle number is the index column, because most at times when you go into that database and run a search, the search engine is going to prioritize the column that is called index. And so anytime you search on that particular column, the results, you're going to return the result faster. You understand what I'm saying? And so it just makes sense that you set your primary key column as your index, and this is the syntax. So you can call it, you can run that. Let's just run this for and see what we have. Let me come and run this now. So now look, what is going on here is that if you notice here, no column has been added called student index. Have you noticed that? I ran this, but I didn't create a column called student index but then what is happening is that I have automatically told the engine that this column called student ID is my index column. And that means if you come now and run a search in this database using the student ID, you're going to get a faster result compared to searching using the name or the age. And I was explaining that it just makes sense to use this column as your index because it is your primary key, of course. Primary key means that's what you will remember. That is what you know is unique. That's what you know can identify that record. And so it just makes sense that that is your index and you run your search on it. If you come and make your name your index, it also matters. Maybe you can, for the sake of searching, of course, if you know that when you want to search in that database, you know that what people easily search for is the name, and then make the name the index. Because it's, like I said, indexing a particular column helps that column to be easily searchable. Because anytime you want to search on that column, the results comes faster. I don't know if
Prof, please, if I understand, does it mean that we can have the ID, the primary key different from the index column? Okay.
Yes, it's possible. Yes, it's possible. Again, indexing is for searching, and that will just ask you, what can you easily remember to search? You know, when you are searching, the reason why you search is because you don't know everything, right? You don't know what you're looking for. You just know something about that thing. Is that not the reason why you search? For example, if I go to the database and I know that in this database, I might not know your score in mathematics, right? I don't know your, maybe your matricle number, but I know your name. So I'm going to search for your name. I'm going to look, hey, where is Constance? I'm searching Constance. The reason why I'm searching Constance is because that's what I know. That's what I remember. And if the index, if that's the column that has been indexed, it becomes easily to get the results returned. That's why when you Google search the index function, they will tell you that it's used to indexing helps a particular column to be searchable and make it return result faster. It's not as if you cannot search age, but the way the priority given to that will be lower compared to when you actually index the column. And so what I'm saying is that you have to know what can be searchable in your database. If I have a database that has the product name, the product ID, the product price, the product date of expiration, and all of that, I don't think using the product ID, which can be a primary key, is a good indexing column because nobody will remember the product ID. What people remember is the product name. For example, bonbon, chocolate. But nobody knows the product ID of chocolate. So people will never search that product ID. They might if they know, but what people mostly search is the product name. And so it just makes that are indexing on it. But again, the primary key can also be a good index if that is what is commonly recognizable. This especially applies during researches because when you are working on a research, most of the times you don't know the names of the participants. You don't want anybody to know them because you don't even, for the sake of data integrity. Again, there's a lot to discuss around here, okay? And it's sensitive. When you want to make a column indexable, you don't want, most of the times you don't index columns that have sensitive data because you don't want people searching for sensitive data. Again, these are data integrity things. And you don't want, because when you want result returned, when people go into a database and query result, you don't want people to see what they're not supposed to see, confidential information. And so most of the times indexing those ones don't make sense, right? I don't know if you get what I'm saying. You don't want people to come and search. And if I have a if I have an employee database, if I have an employee database and I'm going into search, I want people to search. I will not put their salaries as the index column, of course. It's confidential. Maybe their names, yeah. Maybe even their ages. You might not want to put somebody's age as because that's confidential information. So it's just about you being informed on what you're doing and then being able to apply that in a very professional way. Okay. Is there any confusion there? You can also drop an index, of course. So if we can just come back and drop the index, right? By just doing the drop index column function, and then you have the index name was student index, and then so you're putting it on students, and then you run this, that works. But if you come back again and you check the student table, it's not like the student ID is not there, it's still there. But then the only difference is that this time around, there is no indexable column on that ID. And this is important when you're setting up databases for the sake of queries, please. This is a very good interview question because they will ask you if I have this database. And reason, now I want you to also understand something because we are not just working. If you're working within a system where there are applications, people are building, you are working with developers that build applications. Because remember, databases store information and applications can be the ones sourcing that data from the application and not even you, right? And so you might also want to be able to be careful the way you index those columns because you have to communicate that information with your developers to know what to search for when they go into that database for the sake of results. Because when you tell them that this is the column that has been indexed, it makes it easy for them to set that into their application so that when the application is going into the database to get data, it should reference that index column as the search column. Is that clear?
Yes, Prof.
Okay.
Prof.
Yes. Any question? Okay, let's look at something else. Now, if I just like in when we in Python we used to say I like I'll keep referencing to Python. That's why we studied it first, of course. I can come and say head, the head, and a df dot head, for example, df dot head, and then I can pass 2 here, saying that I want the first 2 rows, right? And this returns 2. But if I just run df, you notice that it truncates the data. And I remember we experimented this in class. And we noticed that for Python, once the number of rows are more than 60, it will be truncated, or the number of columns are greater than 60, or greater than 61, it will be truncated. Like you can get more than those number of records, right? And this you can also set this limit within a database. If you query how many records can you get at most, right? So let's see how we can set that. It's possible to set limit. These are just possible things when you're creating. And so you can, the reason why we're saying this is because if you go and query a database and you find out that the number of you want to query your data and you want to say, I want the records where the sales is more than 10,000. You don't want to see all the records. Maybe you want just 5, right? So how can you do that? So let's say I want to select star. Oh, where's my star? Select star from students. And then if we run select star from student, it's going to return everything. Is that true, right? It's going to return everything. We already know that. But then I'm going to add another word here that says limit is 5 because I don't want all. I don't want everything. Don't give me everything. So select star from student 5. You see, it has just 5 records. Like head 5, head 2, head 1, tail 2, tail 3. You are telling the limit of records that you want. If I say head 2, I'm returning the first 2 records. If I say tail 5, that means I want the last 5 records. So in SQL, select star limit. And so if you wanted to add, you could have possibly also said select name from students where age is greater than 18, limit 5. You don't want all the people whose ages are greater than 18. You are not interested. You want just 5, right? So that is the limit function. So I think I have to add that here. So that is the limit command. It's used to control the number of output records. Let's continue. Any problem?
Nope.
So let's use the min and max function, or the command, right? We've not looked at that. Min and max commands. Min and max. So this one returns the minimum, returns the minimum and maximum values in a specified column. Of course, it's not in any column. So you don't just come and see min max. What do you mean from where? So how do we do that, right? So I'm going to select, what should we select? The minimum age, which was 18. Select the minimum age. Select the minimum age from where? Students, right? Students. And that should return the minimum age. And if I run this, I get 15. That's the minimum age. It tells you minimum age is 15. And can I get a maximum age? Yes. I can just copy this, paste it down here. And instead of having minimum here, I'm going to have max. So max. And if I run this, it tells me the maximum age is 23. Right? Are we all following? And for the people in the domain of business, right? You might want to know your maximum sales. How much did you sell highest in this month? and you want to, maybe you want to, you want to know maybe you want to get maybe the name of the student with the maximum age. Do you want to get that? Yeah. Do we want to get that? Nobody's saying anything. We already know that that other guy, was it John Doe or was it John Mark? Is the is the is the is a guy with how do you say it? The guy with the minimum this thing. So you might also want to also know the guy with the maximum age. So I'm looking at the next command we are going to do and
Yeah.
we'll look at mean. So you might want to also select that. So how can you do that? So if we want to do, what other command do we have? Let me see. Let me see the command that we've not looked at. Count, average, sum. Yes, we still have to look at those. Okay, maybe just to see. See, let me show you people something for the sake of peace. If I come up and I select this, see, if I come up and select this, no, let me use this one. I want to show you something. I'm going to select this. And I'm going to paste this down here, okay? You can do that with me. I'm going to paste this down here. I'm selecting the name and the age from the students table where age. Now, I'm going to say equals to. And when I say equals to, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to open brackets, open and close here. And I copy this. I'll put there. You see that? Now, let me explain what is happening here. When you go back here, what we were doing here is that we were selecting all the data where the name, we're selecting the name and the age from the students table where the age was equal to 18, was equals to 18, right? 18, and so we got that result. Now, but here, I know that if I run this, it's going to give me 23, which is the maximum age. And so instead of writing 23 here, to make it flexible in the case where you do not know, I'll just pass back this same command here. And if I run that, look at, so I'm just going to put a semicolon here. And I'm going to run that. You see, it says it's James Wilson of age 23. Does it make sense?
Yes, bro.
I don't know.
Yeah,
So
that's
we can
sub-query.
yes, you can also do the same for the, if you want to get a minimum, it's still the same. I'm just showing you how you just combine all the commands instead of, so instead here, I'm just going to say, instead of this, I'm just want the minimum because I know that this command will return the minimum and that value now will directly be equated to the age. And that gives my result, right? And I'm going to run that and it says Tom Clark is the person with the minimum age of age 15. And so for my business people, you might want to know which product gave you the highest sales in that month and which product gave you the minimum sales. It's up to you. So Okay, we just have to continue. Let's look at the. So can we can run this count. We can run this count. We can run the average. That's the mean. We can run the sum. So we can. So let me just say sum average. What am I? It's because I'm holding this. Sum comma average comma average has a G. So average and counts. So we can come down and then we begin to we do that. What can we sum here? In this our student database, what can we sum? Can we sum anything? What were these? Can we sum ages? We had a very crazy database. Maybe you add money somewhere. You can. We might have added a amount paid school fee column, and then we can sum it. But that's you can. So can you please write that as an assignment and go and do it? Assignment. You add a school fee column in this database and then calculate the sum. So that but I'm going to show you how to do the other ones. So assignment.
Yes,
This when I come tomorrow, I'll like to do my assignment. When we next class, I want to say it before we start Power BI assignment. Add a fees column, the fees column, and calculate the sum. So you're adding the fees column to the student table and calculate the sum. Sum, not should. Okay, let's continue. Let's just calculate. Let's do some calculations around that. We get the sum, the count. So let's say, can we say we can count the number of records in our database? Can we do that? It's a good thing, right? You might want to check how many records you have. For those who are using this for statistics, for research, you might want to know the number of persons you have enrolled or whatever. So you just count everything. So you just select. Select count star. Star means everything, right? We want everything from students. The database where from maybe courses. Let's do course. Let's know how many courses we have. Why do we keep using students? You'll now be like, we do not have the only database from course, right? So we can also get that. We can also get that. And once we run this, we get 10. There are 10 courses. So we can also do, we can get the average age, right? So we get select AVJ. So this time around from students, right? We want to get an average age of our students. It's 20.3000 per hour. So what can we sum? So you do the sum part. I've done count sum. So when you do this, you do the same thing and calculate the sum following the same syntax. So I'm not doing sum. So let's continue. Okay. I know we didn't do this in Python, but I was hoping, I don't know. You can also look into it. It's called regex. Regex is called regular expressions. Maybe because we are working on a project for, I just got that text from Dr. Olivier, I'll reply him. We are working on a project on sentiment analysis for the whole team. And we might look at regex. We might have a highlight and where we will need to know some word tokenization and stuff like that. And so I might want to have to highlight that for you guys in this for the sake of that project. So what it was that it's called regular expressions, regular for people. You can look into it, please add this on assignment to look into regular expressions. Regular expressions. It's called the library is called regex. Regex. So now what does it do? Okay, for example, if I have, for example, my email is name at gmail.com. So what I can do is that I can go into the database and I filter anything with at gmail.com. Anything that has a gmail.com. Right? So there is a way to write this in Python. There is a library called regex. It's called regular expressions. You follow a pattern. We're going to look at that before we do that project with Dr. Shu. I'm going to work on that so that we just look at how this works. These are just some extra libraries, but I think for a project with Dr. Shu, you need to know this because it's sentiment analysis. That's what he chose to work on. So let me touch that before people jump into that project. So it's called regular expression, but then let's see how you do that in databases, because you might want to go into databases and you are looking for data that has specific patterns, data that has some specific for example, I want to get any name that starts with an A, all the names that starts with an A, right? So I want to get any name that ends with an A or a B or C, right? So it's just anything, right? These are patterns, these are regular expressions. So we can look into that, but then how do you implement that here? So I'm going to be introducing another function, another command that's called the like. So you did like this, you did like this. This is English, right? So I can just do select star. So what I'm saying is I'm selecting star from students, star from select star from students. Now I have to bring in the where, because remember the where gives me the possibility to specify a command where name like. This is where the like command comes in. Where name like. So now there are different ways to do this. If I do this, it's going to be a string, of course. If I do this, I put A here. And if I put A here and then I pass this percentage sign behind and I put this back at the end and I pass my semicolon. What this means, let me run this so that you see. It means that I'm returning all the names that start with an A. The like command. So if I want to return all the values were emailed, because you might go into your database and there's an email column. The column is called email. And in your column, you have Gmails, you have Outlook, you have Yahoo. You might want to you want those columns, those records where the email is at Gmail. So you're gonna do your where clause in quotes because it's going to be a string. It's going to be ending with at gmail.com. So you're going to do ending with gmail.com. So you're going to have a percentage here. Sorry. So I'm going to have G here, and then I'm going to have my percentage here. If ending with gmail.com. So if this comes after the percentage, that means ending with. If it comes before, that means starts with. That's what I wanted to show you. So here you have start with, it starts coming before the percentage sign. And if it's ending with, it comes after. So can we see, just to be sure that we even have any name that ends with. Let me run this a bit. So let me pick some. I don't have select star from students. Select star from students. Let me run this one. Oh, I messed up my this thing again. So I'll come back and run this thing. Who first of all send me to go and click that thing over there now? Oh, Boris. Now I come down, I have to mess my table. I have to come back and select. Okay. Let me see. Can we select all the names that end with ON? James Wilson. How many names are there that end with ON? Martin. Let me see the one that is common. I want the one that has ON. Alice Johnson. Okay. There are two sons there. So let's get the ones that end with. So we're gonna select the names from the student table. So here I'm gonna say that end with, oh, sorry. I don't know, maybe it's gonna work. So you have Alice Johnson and James Wilson. They end with OM. So those are the names, right? It's up to you. You can now match this with any pattern based on your data set. All right. Any questions so far?
None from my end.
Okay. Now, let me see what I can do. I just think there's more we can play around with here. Now there is one small thing here. This can really go really granular, and I'm just thinking of what I can do. Maybe let me just show this on the same thing, right? I really don't have any preference for this, right? But it's just for the sake of understanding. I might want to, just like we do the wildcard, that means everything. There is a possibility to say that I want a name where there is just one character. There is just one character. How do you spell John? John is O-H-N, right? So now there is just one character, and then they followed by. So if I want to do one character, it's an underscore. So I'm going to put an underscore here. What this means is that there should be just, what I want to communicate here is this underscore, what this underscore means. Because just like wildcard, we call this is called a wildcard. Wild, as in the wildcard character, right? Wildcard, wild, W-I is a wildcard. This is called a wildcard. Just like I have this wildcard here, which means everything. There is this one, which is in an underscore, which means one value. It literally means one single character, one single character. So just to illustrate that, I might say, I want the name I want to select all students. That's my wildcard. I want to select all students from the students table where the name, you know, like has one character and followed by John by ONG. That's what it means. So let me just run this. Maybe it'll make more sense to you. And oh, okay, you see, there's nothing like that. Maybe it's case sensitive. Did I have John? Let me try lowercase. This case sensitive, I don't know. Doesn't return anything. Did we even get that? Can I run this and try another one? I think we had a John there or something. And oh yeah, we don't have anything. Actually, we do not have anything. And it's gonna be true. Let me explain why. Because let me not make that mistake and go and run that thing again from up there. You might be asking that we were supposed to have. I don't even think we have anything like that, right? We don't. We don't have these. We don't have anything. There's nothing with just one character followed by John, because this is not followed by John. Number one is not followed by John. Please be careful. It has one character followed by ONOHN space DOE. This is not one character. So don't go and misinterpret this to be one character. Okay. Let me. So what I can do here is that I can update these to be like, I think it's not case sensitive, because I know that this is not case sensitive. So I will just wondering, and I see the reason. So I have to add a space here, and I put DOE, right? There should be one character and then DOE. Maybe you don't know how the person, you were just wondering, how does this thing work? So now you see, now we have something now. It's one character, DOE. And we just like the same thing, right? It would have been any other thing. We could have just had a J here. We've had a J here, and we say it ends with something. You want, and it has lowercase, sorry. It can have one character at the end, and you don't know the character, right? It would have been the same thing, right? We just see it returns the same thing. We know that there is a character at the end. So this just helps you to query your data. You are querying, but you don't know exactly what you're looking for. And so you play around with the commands. I'm looking for data. It has this, but I'm not sure there is this there, right? It starts with this. It ends with this. You know all those things, right? I'm looking for the names that end with, there's a person in your database whose name ends with this, but you don't know the rest of the name. That's how you work with it. So again, we're just querying data. You go and look for anything. Okay. Any questions so far?
None from my end.
Okay. Let's look at what again? Oh, what have we not done? We have, maybe you might want to pick multiple values. Is that possible? Yes. So let's come back again. Let me see what we can get. Let me run this. So let's see. Maybe you want to get multiple values. We want to get the people whose ages are, say, 21, 23, for example. 21, 20, and 23. So how do we do that? So that's just saying you want to pick against one column, you want multiple values, right? You just want to select multiple values from a particular column. So there's also that possibility, right? So we go with the select. Again, we want everything from students, from our table, which is student. And then where again, it gives us the flexibility to pass a command. You have age. That's what we're looking for. And then what I'm going to show you here is the in. That's the in command. Hash here and say in, which will help you use to pass multiple values. So if we pass that here, I think it should give us, you pass a tuple. Let's call it a tuple because that's what we know. So maybe we're looking for what ages, what was the age? 19, was it 20, 21, and 23? 23. So that's what we're looking for. And then we can pass a semicolon here. And we get all the people whose ages are 20, 21, and 23. Yeah, we have multiple of them, right? You can also set the limit, like I want just 2 of them, 3 of them, or the rest. It's up to you. Let's continue. Any questions? Please, if you have a question, you stop, ask. And I hope this is easy for you to be typing alongside with me, right? Unless, am I too fast?
Yeah,
Am I going too fast?
I'm
Yeah.
typing.
No,
Now,
it's okay.
you might also want to say, okay, now you're saying, okay, because I've given you 1, 2, 3. What if you want to pick a range, right? You want all the people whose ages lie between 15 and 20, for example, right? You don't want mm, so how do you do that? 15 and 20. So we just we'll use there is the command called between, right? There's a between command. The between. So you use it to specify a range. Right? You want to specify a range where you want to pick your data from. And so we can select star from student where each between, and this is let's say we have 15 and 20 years, right? Sorry, this is semicolon, not colon. And so select, I forgot star, sorry, select star. So if I run this, so see, it has 15 and 20 inclusive, right? So this is inclusive. That's just between 18 and 20 inclusive, right? So that is okay, so far so good. Let me check out something. This should give you time to update and meet me. For those that have not yet done, I'm looking for something. I just wanted to, I was thinking about this and just thinking, you might want to do this, right? And you don't want these boundaries inclusive. So what you have to do is that you do not want to use the between function here. So you have to do with age, for example, if you don't want the boundaries inclusive, age is greater than 15, right? And age, and age is less than 20. You don't want the boundaries inclusive, so you don't use the between function. That's one thing too you have to take note of, and you have only 19. So that will exclude the boundaries. Because when you notice that when you just run the between function, like when you just run the between function, it included the boundaries. You see like there's 15 there and there's 20 there, so it's inclusive. And so if you don't want that included, you want to exclude them, you would explicitly specify that here. Yeah. So that just crossed my mind. Any other thing that we would want to work on?
General question.
Yes.
Maybe
if you have a question, please.
before we leave this bundle, just want to ask example of database poisoning, such as SQL injection. Isaac, how do you implement that, or how do you prevent it? Since this is the last class.
I didn't.
Database poisoning, such as SQL injection, is a common issue in database
I'm
management.
not sure I can hear you. Maybe you type in the chat. Your network is not the best man.
Okay, I've sent in the chat.
Well, Prof, can you hear me? Prof, can you hear me? Hello, Prof.
I don't know if it's my network or
it's your network,
it's
because I was hearing him very well. Hello, Prof.
Can you please? Yes, can you please pardon your question, best man?
Yeah, I sent it in the chat. I don't know if it's
Okay,
out of reach, but since we're talking about database.
What is database poisoning such as SQL injection? Oh, okay. How do I address this? These are just because when you create a database, you want to actually avoid that because it's bad. Oh, let me think of all the possible let me run my brain around that. Okay. Because it's actually a possibility because you can actually have all of those play into place, especially around past usernames and things like that. People can play around with that and cause you. So, so it's just to, how do you do? You set commands that either can take or reject particular inputs based on particular patterns, but most likely you might use commands like I'm just thinking of the best commands that can be used to reject particular injections, because it's actually not like you can actually know every possibility, but you can actually imagine some particular fishy inputs that you say, for example, if your database finds them, you might want to reject them or avoid them or not drop them, or I'm just looking for the best way to to do that. Thinking of a best use case. We did this with some work where we were pulling logs, but it was not implemented. I'm thinking of a better way. Mm. Mm. Let me wrap my brain around that and then maybe I'll answer that in the next class. Let me not say what I can't be specific about. I remember I used case where we used that for when we were doing something on we're analyzing logs for a database for accessing data, because what we were doing in that project, I'm just trying to remember what we did. What was happening in that project is that people send requests to a database to access the request that is bad and the request that is good, right? And we had to institute so we were taking that those logs to be able to train machine learning algorithms with that to be able to identify fishy attacks and fishy requests and good requests. We did some work around that. So what we were doing, we're actually pulling those logs. So the database logs each query, and then you can be able to access those logs, and then you have these guys, they call them SOC, SOC, they are security analysts. They could actually analyze these logs, and then from those, they'll tell you which one is bad and which one is not bad, and then we could classify them and then feed the machine learning model with it. But having to institute that within a level of a database to prevent that, let me look into that and then let's talk about it in the next class, because for now, I cannot directly just give you a straight shoot if I'm not sure of implementing it, because I've not personally implemented it, but it will be a good thing to know how you might want to prevent that when you're developing your database from scratch. I don't know how the guys do this database admins do it, but let me look into that. But I've seen that, implemented that, especially even with websites, right? We've done that with what you call requests that are sent to a website, requests that are sent to, so you just filter out, but then you just have those small things that can be there. Maybe a request is coming with this particular pattern, just like we were saying. Maybe you can see if a request is coming where the name starts with A, for example, this can be a bad request. If it ends with this, we just work around that. But specifically implementing that with SQL in the database is what I have to look into, and then we'll talk about that in the next class. But for now, let me not give you a specific answer around injections. There is, Besma, I hope you're good on that, so that you remind me in the next class.
Yes, I'm good on that too. Just wanted to add this one too. I asked.
Which one is that?
This, most times in working with this database, they use Python packages to work indirectly rather than write functions that will update the database, something like SQL May. Also, I think it's something that I'm also looking at, because filling this database manually is cumbersome. You want to automate the process. I don't know. So if
okay, like you are talking about, connecting. Yeah, you want to connect to the database using Python, and then you create your data within Python and it updates in the database. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, using the known libraries or your own function.
I think we did that using the cursor with the SQL connector. We did that in the last class, right? We actually could create a database. You can actually do that using the cursor. I think it's possible. With cursor, we use the SQL connector, and then you create the cursor. I think the cursor, because within the cursor, when you create a cursor, you can use the cursor to write SQL commands, right? I think we'll illustrate that because we have a project. One of our projects here is that at the end of the day, we are just going to create some data, and then we link to this connector and then pull that data. I think we should implement that in that project, Bestman. That should be in we can do that in the next class, right? So that we do a project on SQL. We should do that project in the next class. I think that will be good, so that people don't forget these things before we get there.
Okay.
I think, yeah, that would be nice. I think that would be nice. So we will, in the next class, I'll just prepare data, okay? I'll just prepare data, and then when we come, I'll just share with you. You just run it, And once you run it, you're going to have the data, and then we connect. Using Python, we are going to connect to the database and then pull that data and then analyze it within Python. And then in that case now, like what Bestman is saying, instead of having to write code here, we can also write SQL commands within Python and it affects our database. I think we can do that with the cursor. I'm positive about that. So we try that in our next class and see how that works. Is that okay? Because I think once you establish the connection, it also depends on how you establish the connection, depending on the user right. And since we are going to be connecting as root users, that should be possible. Those we have administrative rights to update. So, because most of these commands that you're seeing here, they are commands that you cannot use if you don't have the appropriate right. For example, if you are connecting to a database and you are not the administrator, you might not have the right to update, like the update command, right? This command, you might not have the possibility to use it because you don't have the right to do that. You might not have the right to use, we use the delete, right? You might not have the right to delete, right? You might not have even the right to alter. So these are things that if you are connecting to a user base, and that's why, let me come back here. When we were connecting, you remember you were connecting as, there was something called a root account. The user account was a root account. What it means to be a root user is that you have all the rights. You have the and all the administrative rights to do and undo within the database. But if you now create your database and you're the database administrator, and then you want to give people access to that database, what you do is that you have to restrict what they can do. There are possibilities that, and most of the times when I've been working within organizations, I've never even had the possibility to go in and create a database from raw. Trust me, I've never done that. I've never created a database from raw. So what I do is that I join your organization, you have your data already existing. People normally have their databases, right? And I join, they go into their database, they create an account for me. Most of the times, there will be funny names because you are within an organization. They'll just give you a funny username. They maybe call it Boris user, blah, 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 just some funny name like that. That's for you. And now they will have to restrict that. They do that from here. You can do that from this administrative portal. So you can come in here and you restrict users to what they can do, whatever possibilities they can be able to do. What can users do? Maybe, and so most of the times people can just give you the possibility to select, the possibilities to the select function, where you can only fetch. You can only go and fetch data. And most of the times, as if you're working as a database, as a data scientist, but basically that's what they'll give to you, because no organization would actually give you the possibility. I mean, there's something called least privileges, the policy of least privilege, which means they only give you what you need to be able to do what you have to do. They don't give you more than that. So they just give you exactly what you need to do. And so most of the time, they can just give you only the option to select. And that's all you can do within that database. You can only connect to that database with your user account and query data, but you cannot make changes to that database. So these are possibilities, but since we are going to be able to connect with our root user account, that means we have all the right to do and undo. But trust me, you might never have that privilege working within an environment, especially if you're working as a data analyst or a data scientist, unless you are the database administrator in that organization. Then you might be given, you have that possibility to do all of these. But if you are just going in there as a data analyst, you're going in there as a business analyst, you're going in as a data scientist or a machine learning engineer, where you are using that data, you're consuming that data, you might not have that flexibility to go in and do changes. But it's still very important that we know how to make some of these changes and how the different functions work, because you always have to answer for some of the things that happen when you're working. So we never know where you can end up, right? In most cases, you find yourself running around most of these commands that we've looked at here. But if there are some other commands that we've not looked at, you might have to do that. Then there's something, I thought of something as we were discussing. You might want to play with tables too as well. I know we've not talked about that. Maybe combining tables. We did that in Python, where we're using the concat function to bring two tables together. You remember when we pulled data from when we pulled data from when we did web scraping, we pulled that data from that about football, that Premier League data. We use the concat function, and then we specify the axis on which we are concatenating, either 0 or 1. You remember all of that, right? So that's what I'm looking at here. So you might also want to be able to pull tables, and then bring them together, and then maybe see how that works. Let me see, but then those tables should be able to share something in common. There should be a connection. Let me see how that is possible here. Where do we have in our student table, we had what we call the course ID, and here we have the course ID, right? So can we can select, let me see, let me try this, okay? We can, oh shit. Let me add something here. Let me just do joining tables, for example, joining tables. This is a possibility, because why you can query data possibility to do that. So we can select, let me see, I can select student I can select student name. What do we have? Student, no. Select, we just got in name. And then, what can we select again? I'm just thinking of the syntax. And I'm thinking of how you should merge them, because you have to merge them along an axis. And what could be the possible let me check them. Just thinking. Oh, let me see. This might. I just don't know whether we have the possibility to join that. They need to share something in common, and I'm just looking at the indexing and all of that, whether we have the possibility to join that. See,
You mean the student and course table?
I'm thinking whether we can merge them on that column. That's what I'm thinking of, if
I
that is
think
possible, right?
The course ID is not possible.
I'm thinking of that, and I'm thinking of the fees. Just so let me check. Let me check. There was this one that I did there all the time. Let me check how I merge those. Now there's while I'm waiting for this file to load up, there is this what you do, and you mostly around what I do in the field, right? What I do in the field in reality is that what I mostly do when it comes to work like this is that I can link to a database, and I'm more comfortable. I don't know if this is for me. I think most of my peers too share the same idea, is that I'm more comfortable with Python. Okay, I'm more comfortable with Python. So what I do is that I can link to a database, and I get my data from there in any form, any way it is. So when I bring in that data, as is, I now have my code that can manipulate that data in any way I want. If I want to drop something, I drop. If I want to add, I add. If we know Python, I mean, it's for me, I mean, a lot of persons share that, but that's what we call, it's called ETL, right? ETL, you do this when you're working, it's called ETL. Our final project last will have it ETL. So E stands for extraction, where you're using select. And then R stands for transform. Transform is when you now write your code within Python to drop duplicates, do this, do that. You transform in that data, and then you can load. We can load when we output that data maybe to Power BI or something. So this is you can load it back to a database or anything. So this is called an ETL pipeline, which means you extract data from somewhere, transform that data and load it. Most at times I do this in Python because I use maybe SQL to extract that data, and then load it into Python, transform it in Python, and then send it back out as an output. Maybe you can just claim it to send to somebody back. Oh, there are those possibilities. But let me see what I have here. Let me see if this is the file that I have. Um, well, maybe you can do. So let me do this. So we have our. So we can select, what can I do? Let me say I can select from the student dot, what do we have? What's the name? We can have the student in the student this thing, we're selecting the name, and then in the course, for example, we are selecting the course. I'm thinking this in my head, but what do we want the course name? Course name, and then oh, and then we can do this. We can say this is coming from the student table. Well, let me try it. If it works, and then I explain it. I want to do. I want to link. Let me say I use the join course. I want to join the course on maybe on student ID. Can we join that on student ID? Student name, student dot name, right? Oh, dot ID. They might share the same ID. Students dot student ID. We call it student ID, right? They might share the same ID. I'm just thinking in my head, students ID. Oh, sorry, ID. And then and then we can call that how can we call it? We can call that maybe ID. Maybe we can just call that ID. Maybe just see student on ID could be as the course ID, which we already have, but it's not going to work because if you're not going to tell you that it's a duplicate, so you can't work that way. So what you can do is give it a different name. So we can call it course dot. This cannot work. Let me call it course ID and see if how that works. Let me join them on where this should be equal to this. Then I'm evaluating the syntax and I'm thinking of how it works again, and my head is not reasoning in that direction again. How does that thing work? Let me say course.course ID. Let me use this course.course ID. ID. And I can just want to run a semicolon here and I execute this. What do I get? It says unknown column cost name. Do we have cost? This was course name. It was course name, right? We do not have anything like course.name. We had course name. Oh, so
Prof,
this actually joined, but yes, I'm trying to join the
there
courses
is
and the
course,
student IDs along where the
yes,
student ID is the same. That's what I'm trying to do.
yes,
And
but
I'm
you are
thinking,
doing, see, there is course ID on both
on
the
both columns,
student
right?
table and the course. Exactly. So why don't you join on course ID? So student.course ID equal to
Okay,
course.course ID.
yeah, let's do that on course ID. Course
No,
ID, because both of them have
but student dot, so that to signify that you are making use of the
the
course
student.
ID in the student table. Yes.
Yeah, that should work. Because this return nothing, because not both of them shared nothing. Where the course IDs are the same, that should give us, what does it say? Unknown student dot course ID. How did we call it? We had a course ID column in the cost ID. This is
You wrote
wrong.
course ID.
Yeah, this is it. Thank you for solving that problem for me. I was trying to speed my head around that. So what we are doing here is that we're joining the course ID and the student column on the we are getting the student name and we are looking at the corresponding course where that student is working, where the IDs are the same. Because remember, and that's why I was thinking, if those two tables don't have anything in common, it cannot work, right? If they don't have anything, if they don't have a link, if you don't have anything that you can link them on, it's not going to work. So you must be able to have, they must share a common denominator. So like we should have course ID here and course ID there. And that's why it was able to join the course on student ID where equals to course.course ID. So you are joining the course on student ID equals to course ID. So if these two don't work, you can't get any result, right? So that's it. And so now you can now actually see that here, John Doe does mathematics and James Smith does physics and Alice Johnson also does mathematics and all of that, right? And so that's one thing you can do. Any questions?
Yes, Prof. I don't understand the first command that
Okay.
we select
I think we are
student
out of
name.
time and I need to also travel.
Hello, Prof.
Pardon?
I didn't understand the first command that we gave the
Madam Constance,
student.
you were saying something. What are you saying?
Yes, Prof. I was saying that I didn't understand the first command we gave the select student dot name course name.
Yes. So what are you looking for? Look at the output here. Select student or name means I want to see the name of the student. I don't want the student's age. I don't want the student's whatever. I want the student's name and I want the course name. I don't want the course ID.
Okay.
And then from students. And then I also want to join these on, I want to join this where the student's ID equals to the course ID. So that is what I'm looking for. That's why one is a foreign key in another table and in another table is a primary key. You understand?
Okay. Okay, Prof.
This specifies what I'm returning. What do I want to see? Yeah.
It's okay. Thank you.
Exactly. We're going to have a full project on this next week. Okay. On Tuesday, we'll have a project on SQL. We'll create the table and then pull that data in and then work with it. If there are any other things that we've not touched, we might touch them in that project. If there's a command that we've not looked at, possibly when I'm preparing that, I'm possibly going to see a lot of maybe some other commands that we've not looked at or something that we've not touched. And then we're going to touch it in that project. Okay. But
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Yeah, good night.